Jay Cameron, I'm thrilled to have you on the show today. Talk to me about Maximum Impact Travel, the company itself, and how you got it started.
Maximum Impact Travel is a travel company that specializes in taking people who are interested in traveling to the continent of Africa and other African diaspora destinations. So African diaspora destinations are places where people who descend from the continent of Africa reside. And so we focus on African history and culture all around the world, and of course on the continent of Africa. And that's what we do. And we do this in Africa, Europe, Central America, South America, and even in the United States. And we're even looking to get into Asia because the African diaspora is all over the world.
Wow. So talk to me, 2019, is that the launch? That's when you launched the company?
That's when I launched the company, and it came on the heels of my first trip to Africa in 2018. Yes. I went to Ghana. Mm-hmm. And when I went to Ghana, you know the things that we've been told in the States about Africa. And if you go, you know, it's all these bad things. Everybody's sick, dying, homeless, poverty-stricken, just in need of us to come and help rescue them. So I went to Ghana with this expectation, and I actually went to Ghana with a lot of fear. Mm-hmm. And so when I got there, when I landed, I instantly felt ashamed because I had listened to all of this propaganda, all of the stories from people who had never been to the continent, and I'd listened to that. And when I set foot on African soil in Ghana, I realized that I'd been incredibly misled. First of all, they didn't need any clothes, they didn't need any food, and in this part of Accra, Ghana, they didn't need all of the things that I thought. And then I started seeing how deficient I was in my education, in my cultural maturity. And I knew at that point that my life was beginning to change. I didn't realize it was going to become all of this, but I knew that by being there on the ground, something was happening, and I couldn't quite explain it in that moment, but the curiosity was awakened, and I decided that I was going to explore, and that's what I did.
What experiences did you have that make you say, wow, I got to rethink this?
It happened gradually as I began to learn more about the history of Ghana, the people of Ghana, learning about the Ga people and where the Ga people came from. I'd never heard of the Ga people, the Ewe people, the Ashanti. I heard a lot. Most I knew about Ashanti was the singer. Ashanti, I didn't know anything about the Fanti. I didn't know anything about McCarthy Hill. I didn't understand the difference between Elmina Slave Dungeon and Cape Coast Slave Dungeon. I didn't know anything about Acid Manso. I didn't know anything about Kumasi. I was misinformed, miseducated.
So now you become an evangelist, though, and you wind up back at trying to create this business, and that becomes your essential challenge, right? Is to now convince people or at least transform their thinking, right?
Yes.
How'd you do it?
Well, I did it by way of social media, and I produced a video called The Ghana Chronicles, and I put it on my YouTube channel, and it took off.
Welcome to the Ghana Chronicles. My name is Jay Cameron, and before we get started,
I gave everyone the opportunity to join me in Ghana later that year, and that's what happened. So November 2019, we brought more than 30 people back to Ghana, and they had their own experience, and that's when the whole journey with Maximum Impact Travel began.
Did you have to throttle down because just 19, and now boom, we hit COVID?
I had to shut down. It was we did one, and then that was it. One and done.
That was it. One and done. I hear.
One and done. I failed to mention that in 2019, I also climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, this is the kind of life you live anyway. I see. No. Okay, you get this honest. What did you do? I mean, you need more than a couple of bottled waters for that, though, right? Talk about that trip.
Nothing compares to climbing Mount Kilimanjaro because I'd had no experience doing it. I probably should have trained a little bit more, but I made it to the top. And
did you go with a group?
Yes. There was a group. We didn't know each other before we got there, so we all met each other on the mountain. Mm-hmm. You eat on the mountain. You do everything. You don't bathe. You don't take a shower for 8 days. It's quite the camping experience, the full camping experience.
So Kilimanjaro, Ghana, and then like we wind up in, I guess, 2021 of some sort, and then you start to Tanzania, and you start expanding. Is that right?
Well, what happened in 2021, I started opening up the tours again. And I did that in February of 2021. We started doing info sessions. And I just said, you know what, whoever wants to go to Ghana, let's take them to Ghana. And I said, so we started with our first group. Our first group had 7 people. I was like, 7 people are still willing to travel and go through all the restrictions and everything in order to go. I said, that's fine. So then the next group had 20 people. And the group after that had another 20 people. And then the next group had 6 or 7 people after that. And then the final group had 25 people. So I was like, we're on to something. But if you remember, the world was still inside. People still were not traveling yet. Yeah. And a lot of travel companies were watching what I was doing. So I'm on YouTube, my channel is taking off. They're watching these adventures. They're listening to the testimonials. They're seeing the transformation in people when they're going. So larger travel companies reached out to us to curate and manage their tours. So now through collaboration, now this is when everything takes off in 2022. And
who's on your trip? Can you talk about the demographic? I saw something in your marketing that said 7 to 97. You know, like right? Is that all colors, gender? We'll talk about that. What does your demographic look like? The people.
All right, so I'll correct it from ages 3 to 93.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, big difference, right? Big difference. So typically people over 40, but these were people who wanted to have a good time, but they also wanted to learn. And that's what we were able to create for them. And when you watch the testimonials and you see the emotional responses and you see, you could tell that something was being released when they saw for themselves and when they encountered people and they tasted the food and they put on the clothes and they heard Aquaba or Welcome Home, or they went on a safari to Tanzania and they had that experience. And again, that was not anything anyone could take from someone. No, I don't care what your history teacher said. You could throw away everything the history teacher taught you because you now could see for yourself. And when you have a 90-plus-year-old come who had never been to the continent before, there's nothing more rewarding, or an 85-year-old or a 75-year-old, and they've never been, but they wanted to go. And they said, I trust you, Jay. I trust you to take me. And it's nothing like that. Especially
you have there are a lot of people, like a lot of places that you go. Jay Cameron can't be in all of them, you know. So how do you talk to me about the company itself and how you even work it out?
What I did was I focused on building my team. And I couldn't do what I do. We have a team of over 30 people worldwide who help to make this happen. So we don't go to all 50 countries on the continent of Africa, but we go to 35 different destinations around the world. And the reason why we're successful is because of the teamwork. So I will spend time in each location just cultivating, building the team, making sure they understand what my expectations are, and then they will shadow me. So they will watch how I do a tour, and they'll follow the whole system. We have a system in place. They understand exactly what we're looking for. And the biggest thing we do is we make sure they're compensated well. So, you know, I tell people all the time, we're not the cheap travel company that goes over to exploit anyone. We want to make sure that when we bridge the gap, that they're able to feel excited about being a part of this company.
So they're instrumental in your message around eliminating the kind of whitewashing of how stories get told. Can you just bring me through like an itinerary, an average day?
Well, the first thing we do is we want everyone to be safe and comfortable. Then after that, I make sure that you have a great time. So we make sure everyone is able to taste the food, but we don't overwhelm them with the local food. We say, listen, just kind of, you know, sample it, just taste it, see how you like it. We make sure that food does not become an issue. So what am I going to eat? Don't worry. 70% of what you're going to eat is going to be food that you're familiar with. Oftentimes when people get there, they forget they're even on the continent because they're so comfortable. We make sure they have the cultural experiences, but we also know at the end of the day, they want to have a comfortable place and a comfortable bed that they're familiar with. So we go through that aspect and making sure that that's taken care of. We make sure that they have the opportunity to shop. Those who like to shop, we make sure that that happens. We make sure they have a chance to connect with the different fashions in whichever country we might be going to. So it's well thought out.
I went on your website that you've got like more like London. You've got a lot of places coming up. So talk to me about this growing menu of places you've got.
My second most viewed city after Accra, Ghana is London, England. On YouTube.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of people who are from the continent who are in London, but there's a lot of history in London, Black history that we don't know about. We have Black Paris, we have Black Amsterdam, we have Black Spain and Portugal. And so when we talk about the whole whitewashed aspect, most often we think about Paris and we think about the Eiffel Tower, or we think about Brazil and we think about Rio and white Brazilians, but we don't realize that Brazil has the largest population of people of African descent outside of Africa in the world. Yeah. So when you start putting all of these pieces of the puzzle together, what it does is it empowers people, because for many of us, we have brown skin, but we have white minds. So the way that we think is European, the way that we flow is European, our standards are European, our education is European, our government is European, our religions are European. All of these things are European, but we descend from this continent that has all of these different cultures. And for many of us, we're disconnected from it intentionally. So when you start connecting those dots, it begins to empower people. There's a curiosity that's sparked. Now someone says, I want to go learn for myself. I'm going to go see for myself, and there's nothing you can do about it.
That's beautiful. Talk about your book.
The Adventures of Darren and Destiny are twin brother and sister, Darren and Destiny, and they travel around the world. They go to Africa and to different African diaspora destinations with their parents, and they're learning the very things that we talk about on the travel experiences that I've shared with you. And the reason why I created this series is because I didn't want another generation to grow up like me, completely ignorant or misinformed about the continent of Africa. And what it does is it gives parents the ability to start changing these narratives in their children while they're young, but then also for parents to learn for themselves. All of this came from that one trip. And I think to myself, what if I never went on that trip and I allowed myself to be gripped with misinformation and fear? And that's what I tell people all the time. I say, hey, I see you got to go. You know, there's a lot of hidden treasures over there on the continent. I said, everybody else knows. Everybody else, the Europeans know, the Asians know. Everybody else knows about the continent of Africa. They tell us don't go, but for whatever reason, you'll find everybody there building their dream.
Thank you. And we're going to follow you. This journey that you're on, it's exciting. And I appreciate you taking the time out to come talk to us.